I began to wonder if my perception of the heavy smoking population in New Orleans and at Loyola was valid, and I also began to contemplate whether or not the city had something to do with this. I pulled a segment of Loyola's student body, and from that data, I construed that about 33% of Loyola students were smokers. This is significantly higher than the United States, in which about 22% of people smoke, and still higher than the state of Louisiana, in which about 26.5% of people smoke. My poll isn't scientific proof that more people smoke in New Orleans, but I think it has some validity, and it at least explained that my perception of there being a lot of smokers wasn't totally skewed.
I don't know. Maybe it's just the nature of the city. It's just kind of how the place is. It's kind of a dirty town. I think at Loyola, the majority, obviously the majority of the people smoke, and I think it's more than any other campus I've ever been on. Like when I come outside in front of Beaver, it's just ridiculous. There's always, you got 10 people at any time down there smoking. I think it's the nature of the city. When you come down here, it's a party city. Very social city. Smoking's obviously a social thing, like people say all the time. But yeah, I think it's the nature of the city.
There's a social aspect to it until they stop, smoking in everywhere but bars. I mean, honestly, there's a place called the Neutral Ground, and I went there because I was 14 and they didn't care if I was smoking a cigarette inside. And everyone else there was smoking a cigarette. So everybody had that common, ground that was smoking. I mean, coming here to Loyola, the first friends I met were the ones who needed a smoke break between classes or up in their dorm because you can't smoke in the building. So the smokers bench became a haven, and that's where we met everybody. That was the social gathering, and to this day, my friends are the ones I started smoking with. We had the 4 a.m. cigarette, the 2 p.m. cigarette, the one right after class, the one because I'm stressed out, the one because I've had a long night, and the one because I drank, the one because I had sex, and the one because, hell, the pack's almost done. I gotta get a new one.
I don't know. I've never been at a school where people smoke this much before. Sitting on the bench when you're a freshman and you don't know anyone, you bond over huddling in the cold and huddling under overhangs when it's raining and no one has a lighter. You meet people.
Well, I'm from New Orleans, and yes, I think there's a large percentage of people in the city that smoke. I think it kind of goes together with the, laissez le bon temps rouler and let the good times roll kind of atmosphere.
I think first it starts being, having your smokers group, after class there's always a few kids that just get together and smoke cigarettes, and that's how it starts. Or actually, I think it starts socially, at a social event, and then it becomes, like parties or bars or whatever, social places.
Drinking and just partying, period, is kind of something that is pressured, well, not pressured around here, but it's just a big part of Louisiana and New Orleans. New Orleans is the big easy, and I think that contributes to why so many people smoke here.
Probably because a lot of people here are pot smokers also. And like I said, we don't give a shit about pollution around here. At least most people don't. I kind of do. So it's just that kind of mindset.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind would be geographics, maybe. I think that people not in the U.S., Central and South America, in the culture, they can buy them more readily, and I think they just smoke more in general. It's definitely more part of the social environment. So one, I would say geographics and an influx of, there's not really, but especially in the city too, there's a big influx of either Hispanics or Brazilians, and a lot of them smoke, I would say, more on average than the U.S. would, because the U.S. is cracked down in a different way than other countries haven't. Yeah, and I think that New Orleans is the type of city where you can be completely conventional and right-wing, or you can just be absolutely crazy. And I think that having such a broad spectrum leaves a lot of room for different people in between. And I think in cigarette smoking, it's one of those things where some people over here definitely wouldn't try, some people over here wouldn't try, but there's so much gray in between that you're bound to find a lot more people that fall somewhere in that category. And it is, there's just a lot of interesting people here, and sometimes, there's an allure with the coffee and cigarettes and thinking and cafes and all that stuff.
Well, yeah. There's a big social aspect to smoking. A lot of my friends that I made in college, I made smoking cigarettes. You sit down there, you share a cigarette with somebody, or you're like, hey man, can I bum a cigarette? And then, you know, conversation develops from that. Smokers hang out with other smokers, you know, and non-smokers, but there's no discrimination really. But I mean, there's more smokers in the Southeast than pretty much anywhere, and NOLA's, well, we're the second most smoker-friendly city in the country. You can smoke anywhere, or at least you used to be able to smoke anywhere.
Why do you think that is?
Part of the culture, I believe. You know, goes hand in hand with the other activities done in this city. It's a social thing. And also, I mean, why smoking's so big in the Southeast is because it's cheaper here than anywhere else, really. I mean, shit, a pack of cigarettes, like this pack that I bought here cost me about $3. You know, grand total $2.94 actually. That's with tax. Whereas like that same pack, if I was in New York City or Seattle or the cities that I've been to, that pack of cigarettes $8.